Welcome to the CACFP meal pattern training. This session will focus specifically on the requirements surrounding the milk, fruit, and vegetable components in the updated Child and Adult Care Feeding Program meal patterns, which will go into effect on October 1st, 2017. Copies of this PowerPoint, as well as additional training materials, can be found at the website listed on the screen. Additional training materials will be available through the RIDE Child Nutrition Program's website. Recently, the USDA has made some policy updates to the child and adult care meal patterns. The updated child and adult meal pattern requirements, which were published in April of 2016, focus on ensuring children and adults have access to healthy, balanced meals throughout the day. Specifically, the changes provide wider varieties of protein options, greater varieties of vegetables and fruits, more whole grains, less added sugar and saturated fat. Today, we will talk about these changes as they relate to the milk, fruit, and vegetable components of the CACFP meal pattern. The updated meal patterns continue to dictate the required components and minimum portion sizes that must be served as part of a reimbursable meal for each meal period. As you can see from this comparison chart, there have been no major changes to the milk component in terms of meal service and portion size. Milk is still required as part of a reimbursable breakfast and lunch. For fruits and vegetables, the new meal patterns have separated one previous component of fruits and vegetables into two separate components, fruits and vegetables, for lunch and supper. The minimum portion size of each separate component must be met for a meal to be considered reimbursable. At breakfast, fruits and vegetables continue to be considered one component and can be served interchangeably. Fruits and/or vegetables continue to be an optional component that may be included as part of a reimbursable snack, provided that the minimum serving size is met. Under the new meal patterns, however, fruits and vegetables have been split into two separate components for snack, just as at lunch and supper. This change will offer providers with additional menu planning flexibility that we will discuss later on in this training. Now that we have reviewed the features of the child and adult meal pattern requirements, let's shift our focus to the specific food components. First, we will cover the milk component. According to the American Academy of Pediatrics, most children between the ages of 1 year and 23 months need whole milk because it provides a higher fat content, which promotes healthy growth and development. The CACFP meal pattern requirements call for children aged 1 year to the end of 23 months to be served a minimum of 4 fluid ounces or 1/2 cup of unflavored whole milk at breakfast, lunch, and supper, and it is optional at snack. Breast milk may be served to children past the age of 1. This allows you to claim reimbursement when a mother chooses to breastfeed in the facility or if she or a guardian provides expressed breast milk to be fed to their child who is past the age of 1. It is important to note that a parent or guardian must supply the age-appropriate minimum serving size for the child in order for the meal to be reimbursable. If a parent or guardian provides less than the minimum serving size, you must make up the difference by serving milk of the appropriate fat content for the meal to be reimbursable. For example, a parent brings 1/4 cup of breast milk for her 1-year-old child. The minimum serving size for this age group is 1/2 cup. Therefore, you would need to provide an additional 1/4 cup of whole, unflavored milk for a total of 1/2 cup to make up the difference in order for the meal to be reimbursable. Another key point to note is breast milk and whole milk do not need to be mixed. They can be served separately and would still be considered reimbursable, provided that they meet the minimum required total. When a child turns 2, they are required to be served low-fat or fat-free milk unless there's a special dietary need. However, making an immediate switch from whole milk to low-fat or fat-free milk may be challenging for some children. Therefore, the updated meal pattern requirements allow a 1-month transition period to switch from whole milk to low-fat or fat-free milk when a child turns 2 years old. You may claim reimbursement for meals served to children 24 months to 25 months old that contain whole milk or reduced fat 2% milk. Currently, children between the ages of 2 to 5 years old must be served unflavored low-fat 1% milk or fat-free skim milk. These requirements remain the same for the updated meal pattern. Continue to serve children 2 years old a minimum of 4 ounces or 1/2 cup of milk, and children 3 to 5 years old a minimum of 6 ounces or 3/4 cups. However, the updated meal pattern requirements disallow flavored milk of any sort for children below the age of 6. Specifically, flavored milk or milk with added flavoring, such as syrup, may not be served to children below the age of 6 for a reimbursable meal. When working with children aged 6 years and older and adults, there are some additional options for the milk component. First, you must continue to serve a minimum of 8 fluid ounces or 1 cup of unflavored, low-fat milk or fat-free milk. You may also serve fat-free flavored milk. It is important to note that adding syrup or milk powder to low-fat 1% milk is not allowed because only fat-free milk may be flavored. Yogurt is a great source of calcium and can offer greater flexibility to the menu planner when planning meals for adult participants. The updated meal pattern requirements allow 6 ounces or 3/4 cup of yogurt to meet the fluid milk requirement once per day for adult participants of the adult care daycare centers. The 6 ounces or 3/4 cup of yogurt is equivalent to 8 fluid ounces or 1 cup of milk. When serving yogurt to adult participants, there are some key requirements to remember. Yogurt may not be substituted for fluid milk for children of any age. Yogurt must contain no more than 23 grams of total sugars per 6 ounces. This requirement is discussed in more depth in the meat alternate section of the new meal pattern training. Yogurt may only credit for one food component in a single meal. Therefore, it may not credit as a milk and a meat alternate in the same meal. Yogurt may only be substituted for milk for adult participants at one meal period per day. Lastly, some children and adults may require milk substitutions. If a child or adult cannot have fluid milk due to a non-disability special dietary need, non-dairy beverages may be served in its place without a medical statement. However, the non-dairy beverage must be nutritionally equivalent to cow's milk. Nutritionally equivalent items include soy milk and lactate milk. In addition, a parent or guardian, an adult participant, or a person on behalf of an adult participant must request the substitution in writing. A medical statement is required when a child or adult has a disability that requires a non-dairy beverage that is not nutritionally equivalent to cow's milk, such as rice milk or almond milk. The medical statement must be signed by a licensed physician or licensed healthcare professional. Starting in 2011, child care programs participating in the CACFP were required to make water available to children upon their request throughout the day, including mealtimes. In the updated meal patterns, water must also be offered to children throughout the day. It is important to note that water is not part of a reimbursable meal and it cannot be served in place of milk. It may, however, be offered at meals alongside milk or at snacks when no other beverage is served. It is not a requirement to serve water during meal service, but water must be made available and offered to children throughout the day. Now that we have reviewed the requirements for the milk component, we will move on to discuss the fruit and vegetable components. According to the Dietary Guidelines for Americans, most Americans do not consume enough vegetables and fruits. Also, when Americans do eat them, they are often prepared with added salt, sugar, solid fat, and refined starch. Therefore, the updated meal pattern requirements focus on increasing vegetables and fruits in the diet by separating the vegetable and fruit component and limiting juice to once per day. Let's begin by exploring the separation of the vegetable and fruit component. The updated meal pattern requirements separate the vegetable and fruit component into two components at lunch, supper, and snack. One fruit and one vegetable must be served during lunch and supper meals, and a reimbursable snack may consist of a vegetable and a fruit. For example, previously, a snack containing apple juice and celery sticks would not have been considered reimbursable because both food items were considered to be the same component, the fruits and vegetables component. Under the new meal pattern, a snack consisting of apple juice and celery sticks would be considered reimbursable because celery sticks come from the vegetable component and apple juice comes from the fruit component. It is important to note that two fruits, such as apple juice and orange wedges, are still considered to be the same component and could not be the only two items served as part of a reimbursable snack. Vegetables and fruit are still a combined component at breakfast meals. This means vegetables, fruits, or a combination of both may be served at breakfast to meet the fruit and vegetable component requirement. To help increase the amount of vegetables eaten by CACFP participants and to provide greater flexibility to the menu planner, the updated meal pattern requirements allow a vegetable to be used to meet the entire fruit component for lunch and supper. For example, during lunch, a serving of broccoli and a serving of carrots could be included as part of a reimbursable meal. This means a lunch or dinner can include a vegetable and fruit or two vegetables. However, two fruits are no longer creditable in the updated meal pattern requirements. Also, the vegetable substitute must be at least the same serving size as the fruit component it replaced. When using this option, it is important to note that for a reimbursable meal, you must offer two different types of vegetables. For example, a serving of roasted carrots and a serving of steamed carrots would not credit towards a reimbursable meal because the meal only includes one type of vegetable. The two different types of vegetables do not need to be from different vegetable subgroups, such as dark green vegetables, red-orange vegetables, starchy vegetables, and legumes. For example, you could serve tomatoes and carrots, which are both part of the red-orange subgroup, but would still count as part of a reimbursable meal because they are two different vegetables. Pasteurized 100% juice can be a great source of essential nutrients. However, it lacks the dietary fiber found in other forms of fruits. Therefore, the updated meal patterns limit the service of juice to one meal or snack per day for child and adult participants. If you should serve fruit or vegetable juice at more than one meal, including the snack meal, the meal with the lowest reimbursement rate containing juice would be disallowed. Why is the amount of juice being limited? Juice is a concentrated source of natural sugar and has little to no fiber. For example, as you can see from the illustration on the screen, 6 ounces of juice on average has about 4.5 teaspoons of natural sugar and almost no fiber, whereas a small orange has only 2 teaspoons of natural sugar and 2.5 grams of fiber. It is always healthier to serve a whole fruit because it has less sugar and more fiber, which is good for digestion and makes you feel full longer. Because of the separation of the vegetable and fruit component, 100% juice blends and purees, such as V8, now credit as either a fruit or a vegetable. Juice blends and purees will contribute to the food component with the highest ingredient. For example, if the juice blend or puree contains more fruits than vegetables, the beverage would contribute to the fruit component. If it has more vegetables than fruit, it would contribute to the vegetable component. Whichever ingredient is listed first on the ingredients label is the main ingredient in the juice blend and is the ingredient that it would contribute to. Now that we've discussed all of the required changes under the new CACFP meal pattern, we'll move on to talk about some optional best practices that your center may consider implementing as part of the menu revision process. In addition to the revision of the CACFP meal pattern requirements, the USDA has also developed best practices that build on the meal pattern requirements to further improve the nutritional quality of all meals. The best practices reflect recommendations from the Dietary Guidelines for Americans and the National Academy of Medicine. The best practices are optional. However, USDA highly encourages all CACFP centers and daycare homes to implement these best practices in order to ensure children and adults are getting the optimal benefit from the meals served. Failure to comply with the best practices will not result in meal disallowance or serious deficiency finding. Milk is a critical component of the CACFP meal pattern requirements because it provides children with vital nutrients for growth and wellness such as protein, calcium, vitamin D, and potassium. Flavored milk, however, contains added sugars. The Dietary Guidelines for Americans found that added sugar consumption is particularly high in children and recommended that all Americans reduce their consumption of added sugars. Therefore, the USDA encourages all CACFP sponsors to serve only unflavored milk for all age groups. However, if flavored milk is served to children 6 years old and older, or adults, serve milk that contains no more than 22 grams of sugar per 8 fluid ounces. To determine if the flavored milk meets this optional standard, you would do a similar calculation as you do for yogurt and breakfast cereals. In the case that you are unable to find flavored milk with no more than 22 grams of sugar per 8 fluid ounces, choose the flavored milk with the lowest amount of sugar. Additionally, when serving yogurt in place of milk to adults, serve water as the beverage. And adult daycare centers offer and make water available to adults upon their request throughout the day. Only child care centers and homes are required to offer and make water available, so this best practice encourages adult daycare centers to do the same. As we previously discussed, most Americans do not consume enough vegetables and fruits. Therefore, the best practices around fruits and vegetables promote increasing the total amount of vegetables and fruits served in both child and adult care settings. More specifically, CACFP operators are encouraged to serve at least a vegetable or fruit at snack, serve a variety of fruits and choose whole fruits such as those that are fresh, canned, frozen, or dried more often than juice, and provide at least one serving of each of dark green vegetables, red and orange vegetables, beans and peas or legumes, starchy vegetables, and other vegetables once per week. Lastly, the updated meal pattern requirements feature additional best practices that promote the consumption of nutritious meals as a whole. Incorporate seasonal and locally produced foods into meals. This practice provides the opportunity to increase menu variety that allows children and adults to try new foods and may help in managing food costs. Limit serving purchased pre-fried foods such as french fries and tater tots to no more than one serving per week. Pre-fried foods can contribute large amounts of sugar and saturated fat to a meal. Limiting pre-fried foods to once a week will help balance the nutritional needs of both children and adults. As we have discussed, the best practices are designed to build on the meal pattern requirements. Although they are not required, implementing the best practices shows your commitment to going the extra mile to ensure those in your care are provided nutritious meals. Fortunately, implementing the best practices can be made easy when you establish a plan and put it into action. Whether you choose to implement these best practices or not, your center should develop an overall action plan for implementing the new meal pattern requirements. Having a clear plan will help you and your staff to understand the requirements and will ensure compliance throughout the menu planning, shopping, preparation, and meal serving process. This concludes the CACFP meal pattern training session on the fruit, vegetable, and milk components. Remember, this webinar only covers the requirements relating to milk, fruits, and vegetables. For information on the remaining meal pattern updates and requirements, please visit the Ride Child Nutrition website and access the additional CACFP meal pattern modules that are available. If you have any questions regarding this training or any other CACFP related questions, please reach out to one of the Ride Child Nutrition Program specialists. Thank you.